Hey everybody, I hope you guys are healthy and safe. So I've been using the Galaxy Z Fold 4 for just about a month now. I'm actually short of a month by like 3 days, but please just let me use the 1 month later title because even though it's only been like 27 days, it's been a very heavy and unusual 27 days of use because first of all, I used the Z Fold 4 across 4 or 5 different countries. So I used it in Malaysia, Singapore, Denmark, Germany, and now back in Hong Kong. Heavy use throughout the 5 different places. And now on top of that, during my review period of the Z Fold 4, 2 major challenges came through. The first is the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, which by now you should be familiar with. This is the thinnest foldable ever made, and it kind of makes the Fold 4 look a little bit clunky. And then on top of that, the iPhone 14 Pro series got released. Even if you're an Android guy, you have to admit that every year when the iPhone comes out, it's big news. So the Z Fold 4, in that month or 27 days of me using it, had 2 major challenges come through. And despite the fact that I have access to all three and have used all three heavily, at the end of the day, I know that when I'm done reviewing everything in about another week or two, I will put my SIM card back in the Z Fold 4 and it will be my main daily driver for at least the next few months until at least the rumored next foldable from Vivo and Oppo comes out. That's also super thin. But for now, the Z Fold 4, it's my favorite overall foldable and my favorite overall phone of 2022. And this is despite the fact I have some gripes with the hardware because ultimately the whole smartphone experience, particularly a foldable experience, is more than just hardware. Okay, so what makes the Galaxy Z Fold 4 the best and most polished foldable, especially since I think something like the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 has a better in-hand feel and a Vivo X Fold has a better camera system. So it all comes down to learning from your past mistakes and trial and error. Samsung has simply had more time to refine their foldable line because they've been doing it longer. So when you think back to like the Galaxy Z Fold 1, in hindsight that device looked pretty ridiculous. The outside screen was cramped with thick bezels and the hinge was so floppy. And obviously, most of you guys remember, the first batch of review device broke in the hands of reviewers. And Samsung learned from all that and they've improved and refined every generation to now the Fold 4 really feels like a really sturdy piece of kit. Now I have not dropped the Fold 4 yet, but I dropped the Fold 3 like 3 times over the course of a year of using it, and the Fold 3 still survived with only minor scratches in the bumper. And Samsung has seemingly improved on the Fold 3 sturdiness even more. So the Fold 4's hinge, when I first unboxed the device, I was like surprised at how hard it was for me to unfold the phone, that very first unfold. And keep in mind, I'm someone who's been using the Galaxy Fold series since day one, and I've touched every other foldable. And this hinge is by far the most stiff hinge. You know, obviously this is because Samsung made the hinge able to stay in place halfway, which is something that the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 cannot do. And the fact that the hinge is now so freaking sturdy really adds a level of reassuredness to this thing. Like, this does not feel like a flimsy gadget anymore. It feels like a really well-tooled, refined, powerful machine. Because the hinge can stay in place, that opens up so many usability benefits that a normal phone cannot offer me. For example, I need to film myself for work a lot. Like, obviously I'm filming myself right now. I have my camera on top of a tripod, but the camera's a little bit bulky and the tripod, it's kind of long. So it's a hassle bringing this with me everywhere. So sometimes when I'm a little bit lazy and I just want to get a couple of quick B-roll shots, I can just bring a Galaxy Z Fold 4 or before that the Z Fold 3 with me and know that if I can find a flat surface, I can put this on a table and just film myself because this hinge flex mode allows the Fold 4 to stay in place. Using the Fold 4 as a spontaneous B-roll machine, it's even better this year than last year because Samsung has finally improved the camera system of the Fold 4. The camera system in the Fold 2 and 3 were a little bit mediocre, to be honest, and that was always one of my biggest gripes with the Galaxy Z Fold series. The Fold 4's cameras are now, I wouldn't say they're tip-top premium flagship level, you know, they're still not as good as the S22 Ultra or the Xiaomi 12S Ultra, but they are baseline level flagship cameras because these are the exact same cameras used in the Galaxy non-Ultra S22s. I'm particularly impressed by the 50 megapixel main camera. It has a larger image size than previous Samsung Galaxy Folds, so that allows me to get a little bit more natural depth of field when I take product shots of things or when I'm filming a video of something holding in my hand. And also the camera is a little bit better in low light performance. The other really good lens is the 3x zoom lens. So previous folds had a 2x zoom lens and they're pretty weak. Now the 3x zoom lens, it's really good. In fact, you can get up to 10 times digital zoom and it's quite usable. Again, the 10 times zoom is not going to compare to the S22 Ultra's 10 times zoom, but it's good enough. Okay, let's test the zoom lens for now. There's actually a lady who's standing on the roof right there. So let's zoom in with the Z Fold 4. So we'll do a 3x zoom first, and then we'll do a 10 times digital zoom. Keep in mind this is low light zooming, so I think this 10 times zoom is respectable considering this is a foldable phone. And this is a low light situation right here. But yeah, she's just standing right there by the edge of the roof like this. The only weakness here is the ultra wide camera. It's fine during the day, but at night details are very soft. And this 4 megapixel under screen selfie camera. I will only use this for work video calls where it doesn't matter if my face is a little bit blurry. If you take selfies with this thing, it's still not a good quality selfie. But then you can just use the secondary selfie camera outside for that task. The Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 is awesome, more than powerful enough for like 99.9% of us, and it really improves the battery life of the Fold 4. The Fold 3's battery life could not last me a full heavy day of use, like a full 13-hour day out. The Fold 4 can now kind of squeak by. I would say after like a 13-14-hour day out, the phone will be down to like 12%, 10%, so it's a little bit scary. But at least it survived that 14-hour day. You also have wireless charging and IP68 water and dust resistance, which are things that you don't get in the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, the Vivo X Fold, and several other Chinese foldable phones. So earlier I said that the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 has a better in-hand feel than the Fold 4. A big reason for that is because the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 is actually much thinner. The thickness of the Fold 4 is still a little bit thick. Right here at the thickest end, it's like 16.8 millimeter. But beyond that, I am not a fan of the Fold 4's sharp corners right here. This corner where the hinge ends, it is still a little bit pointy, and when I hold the phone like this, it jabs into my palm. It is just not as comfortable in-hand feel as the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2. The other thing that Samsung should really consider fixing is this harsh crease, which is immediately noticeable as soon as you tilt the phone sideways. Now some of you guys are going to say the crease is needed for flex mode, but that's not true, because the Oppo Find N and Vivo X Fold has flex mode, and those screens do not have such a harsh crease. But even with the hardware shortcoming of the Fold 4, I would still pick the Fold 4 to use over the other foldables long term because the software is just more polished. One of my biggest problems with the Oppo Find N is that apps will open sideways sometimes, the software is just not polished. And with the Vivo X Fold and Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, as I mentioned in those reviews, you can only split screen apps vertically, not horizontally, which is ridiculous if you're trying to watch videos. With the Galaxy Z Fold 4, you have no such issue. You can split apps any way you want, vertically or horizontally. So that's much more convenient for when you want to watch videos while still doing something on the bottom half of the screen. And while we're at it, the speaker system of the Fold 4 is really damn good. There are a lot of other little flourishes that Z Fold 4 does that other foldable phone still has not figured out. For example, the Galaxy Z Fold 4 is the only foldable phone where Gboard opens up in the split keyboard. When you have such a wide screen, you need a split keyboard to type faster. And then check this out. If I close up the screen and I bring up the keyboard again, it reverts back to a normal keyboard that's not split. On the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2, you cannot split the keyboard at all, which makes typing on the larger tablet screen very, very difficult and very annoying. So as I said, I've been traveling a lot the last few months, but it was no vacation. I was working throughout most of the trips. So in Malaysia, in the middle of the day, I would have to answer work emails. In Copenhagen, in the middle of an evening, I need to write an article. And it just helps that I have a device that I can take with me anywhere. And then if I really need to get work done, I can just unfold and have a larger screen than any other smartphone. If I pair this thing with a foldable keyboard, I can actually pound out words at a respectable rate. It's obviously still not going to beat just using a laptop, but it's much better than trying to finger type on an iPhone or Galaxy S22 Ultra. So ultimately for me, for my lifestyle, I think a foldable phone is definitely worth it. It actively improves my work and personal life. And for me, like I already said, I choose the Fold 4 because it has the most polished overall hardware and software. Even though if the Vivo X Fold has a much better zoom lens or the Xiaomi Mix Fold 2 has a much better in-hand feel, both of those phones really need to improve the software for me to consider using it full time. Right now, I think the Galaxy Z Fold 4 is still the best possible foldable phone that money can buy. But again, a foldable phone is not for everybody. This thing is still really expensive at $1,800 US. So you really have to think about whether or not a foldable phone will improve your life. So that's it for my review of the Galaxy Z Fold 4. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, because I review all the foldable phones, like even the really obscure ones I get my hands on. So if you're interested in that product category or just smartphones in general, consider subscribing to my channel. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.